fixing to throw my screen onto yours here. Move it out of the way if you need to. And we'll kind of start by looking at this surface texture symbol. Unfortunately, and you guys might find something I'm not aware of, but I don't think there's a symbol built into AutoCAD for this. I don't know why. There should be. Same way with the counter bore and the countersink and the depth. Those should be symbols that you pick right off that list, like all the others. If we look in AutoCAD, we got a whole big long list of stuff. If we pick on this text and we make us a box here, we got all kinds of symbols right here. I've never, in my 30 years of using AutoCAD, used an almost equal probably. I don't think I've used, flow line. Why are they using this for this crap instead of putting counter bore, countersink, So we just have to work around it. There may be a similar font that we could use to get the check marks in there, kind of like the GDT stuff. There may be something like that, but I'm not aware of it. And so I just, have to do it longhand, So here's what the symbol should look like. It's a 60-degree check mark. So all the angles there, all three of the angles from the left, the center, and to the right are 60 degrees to make the 180 across there. The X value that's given to us is in inches, 0.09. So and that's inches. So keep in mind, this is a metric drawing, this first one we're looking at. But if we keep it in inches, if we do the 1.5 times 0.09, it tells us how long that short leg is. Some people can do that in their head, but I'm just going to open up a calculator. So I'm going to go 0.09 times 1.5, and I'm just going to jot down that my short leg is going to be 0.135. Now keep in mind that's inches. But I'm not gonna panic just yet. And so the 3 times that should be twice that, right? So I can just go times 2 here. And so the 3x should be 0.27. Everybody feel pretty good about that? So that's how long my check marks are in inches. And the text, if I put that roughness height value where that roughness height value goes, the text height would be 0.09. That's how big the text would be at the end of that check mark that we're going to put in. All right, so I kind of got some notes jotted down there, and I know it's 60 degrees. Maybe I sketched the whole thing, 60, 60, and then we got all that. So if we take a look at the problem, and this is the very first auxiliary view. It's an auxiliary view drawing, so we're reviewing that. When I looked at our computer-aided engineering graphics kind of mastery of competencies, we didn't really master auxiliary views. So I threw more auxiliary views into this semester so we can get that mastery down. But the auxiliary views is really not the new stuff. It's really this surface texture symbols that we're doing that's really new. With the auxiliary views, you remember we got those darned ellipses. We have to project up and over, and then you got the front side, and you got the back side. A lot of stuff, and we'll look at what that looks like to begin with. But what we really want to focus today on is this surface texture symbol. So if you look at this, you see that the part there in the isometric views kind of got the blue shading. And this part's cast. We saw the man making the snake catcher handles with the sand. That's how this part's made, cast. And then it goes from the cast process, they pour the multi-material into his sandbox. And then they open it up and bust it all out of there. And then they take the casting over to a mill, and now they machine these faces flat and they drill the holes. So everywhere that you see that's a white surface now is actually that casting being machined away, removed material. And notice that these symbols, I don't know if I got my zoomer going, so I have to pause everything, get my zoomer going. Just can't function without it these days. But notice that these all have that line across the check mark. What does that mean? Anybody remember what that means? That funny word, obligatory. Means you got to remove material, right? And they're telling us right here that there's been 2 millimeters extra. That's what the 2 is right there. That has been cast into the part to be removed on all those surfaces with that symbol on it. So in this case, all the surfaces have the exact same surface texture specification. So I think it's a smarter, easier move to just put the basic symbols on the drawing views and then use the generic note just like they've done there. Say, hey, surfaces marked such and such are really this, right? Instead of putting that number and all those digits in all the ones. But what we really want to understand is that, this underside face, this face, so this face is being given to us by this symbol right here. Okay. The underside is given to us by this symbol right here. The top of this face right here is given to us by this symbol right here. The bottom, the symbol, this bottom edge, this top edge, this symbol means this face right here. Does everybody kind of get what faces we're talking about? This one with the dot right here is talking about the inside of all this going on. So kind of got an idea of where everything belongs. So when we get to our drawing, we can lay it all out just like normal. So this is pretty close to what we have. I'm going to add one more dimension just because I see it here. But if I go into, continue this one right here, right on to right there. So now I think I got everything. But this thing has got two auxiliary surfaces. We're going to go up with this face, everything lines up, projects over. This will be a circle in this, and these are regular fillets in this view. But in this top view, those all turn into ellipses, and you'll have to project those up. Remember, we project up from the endpoints and where the center line intersects. The distortion is happening left to right. So up and down is real measurement values. So everything that you need to find up and down in the top view are real measurements that you can use offset or move, copy, whatever, like normal. But the left and right is where the distortion is happening with those arcs. Same way on the ends here. Those are ellipses, and you can find the center point down here and project up. When you add these dimensions, they're tricky. These are called align dimensions. And if you try to just pick on this endpoint and this endpoint, it's going to kind of kick out and go like this way. And so that's just kind of the nature of that beast. So what I do is I track off this line and I pick this point. I track off this corner and I pick this point. Now, obviously, I don't want my extension lines just kind of dangling around out there. So I just start a line from this endpoint and take it down there about where it needs to be and stop it. Follow the angle with your polar tracking on, same thing over here. Unfortunately, you can't attach to this end of those extension lines for whatever reason. You used to could, but now you can't. So I have to start all the way up here and go all the way down whenever I want to fake one in. You can go back into the properties and turn the original one off. So, if you were to print this, you might see a little thicker line there where the lines overlap. You'd have to really be looking for it to notice it, but it might be there. And you can do that to get around that. But everything's kind of just dimensioned the same as what we've normally done. So what we've got to do now is kind of figure out, how am I going to apply all of these surface texture symbols to make sure I get everything I need? So the first thing I got to do is I've actually got to draw this thing. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in here somewhere, and I'm just going to draw a line. I'm going to draw, let's see, what am I going to do this? I'm just going to draw a line right straight up, and I'm going to go that 0.27. This is my long end. And I made it straight up, even though I know it's not supposed to be straight up. It just makes it easier on me. Go ahead.
We're not in inches.
Yeah, we're not, are we?
You gonna fix it?
But I don't care right now.
I don't care.
So Keith is reminding me, hey, buddy, this drawing is metric. And you just put that line in your inch units. And he's right. What I'm going to do is I got this line straight up. I'm just going to pick on it. I'm going to pick this bottom spot, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to pick rotate. And in AutoCAD, rotation angles to the right or clockwise are actually positive numbers, and counter, maybe saying that backwards. We're going to try it, and it doesn't matter which way it goes because we need to go both ways. But I believe counterclockwise numbers are, gosh, I can't remember. Just going to go. So I really want to rotate this thing 30 degrees. It's going to go one way or the other. So I'm going to use a positive 30, and it went counterclockwise. So that could, I really wanted to go the other way. All right, because that's my long line. So I'm just going to back it up and say, let's try that again. Now that I know, I'm old, so I forget. We want to go minus 30, and then we got that, right? And then I'm just going to draw a straight line just because it's easier than trying to do all the calculating from where it's coming from. I could make this one the 0.135, and I can tab over to my angle, and that's going to be 120, right? So I got my check mark there. And we know this one's going to have a line across it. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of track that on over, something like that. And now, how can I get this from the inches to the millimeters? I didn't want to convert all three of those numbers because I'm lazy, right? How can I get this from inches to millimeters? Everybody in here knows how many millimeters are in an inch. Don't y'all? Who can remember? I know everybody knows, but you might not be able to remember. Anybody remember? Nobody? 25.4. So I'm going to use the scale, and I'm just going to scale all three of those lines up 25.4. And now my symbol is the right size. If I wanted to make a block from this to insert into future drawings, I certainly could. I'd want to make a decision whether I wanted metric or inches. If you want to do both, you can certainly scale it back down and do inches. But I don't have a block made of this for whatever reason. I just don't. But I probably should. So the next thing I want to try to do is to get this thing placed where it belongs. And this is kind of like dimensioning. Yeah.
How long was the first line?
The first line was 0.27. I just went straight up and rotated it negative 30 degrees. You could put 0.27 and press tab and make it 60 degrees, and it'd probably be all right if you wanted to do it that way, not have to rotate it. The base point's got to be down. There you go.
So what was your scale factor?
Well, how many millimeters are in an inch?
Well, I don't remember this.
Did anybody hear that last time? 25.4. Yeah, that long line is 0.27, and then we ultimately scaled everything up 25.4 times to really convert it into metric.
Oh, wow.
So the ideal place, my preferred placement for these are on the extension lines that represent the surface that we're talking about. So I'm just going to use copy, and I'm going to pick my symbol, and I'm just going to use this endpoint because we want that point to actually touch the surface or the extension line that it needs to be on. So I'm going to start with the very top here, and I'm just going to track it over to this extension line. I'm going to put it on that extension line by that dimension right there. Now, you may not have that dimension right there, but you should have a dimension somewhere that represents the top surface of that place. While I've got everything kind of turned the same way, I'm just going to kind of do the same ones that are turned that same direction. So, I can place this one on an extension line out here.
So,
Maybe I draw a line, just kind of fake an extension line on there for that one. So by the two symbols I've placed, we have taken into account only this face and this bottom face. So we still got a lot of work to do with these surface texture symbols. So again, I'm just going to copy it from that endpoint. You know, we could put it right here for the inside edges of so that's got the horizontal edges this way. I need to get more in for the vertical edges. But I'll come back to those. I'm going to put down here, but I'm going to have to actually rotate this around. So I'm going to track it up to this extension line, but it's on the wrong angle. It really needs to be rotated 30 degrees. So I'm going to actually rotate it. So if we still got your polar tracking on, now I can copy this one to all the places. So that's the top surface there. And you just kind of want to attach them onto these extension lines where you can. And if you can't, you may have to do something else like we did here. If you don't have an extension line, you can make one and put a leader on it. We're going to come down here. I don't have this dimension in yet. So that's what I need to do is put my dimension in right here. This will help you make sure you don't miss any dimensions too. So I'll go back to copying. But the ideal is just to put those on the extension lines. I know I'm going fast and I know everybody's not got them to this point, but you want to rotate those around so they're setting upright. And then just simply copy them where they belong. You know, we want to get these over here, so I'm going to rotate them. So maybe I'll rotate these. Doesn't really matter which way they rotate. I'm going to rotate them that way. They could just as easily be turned the other way. So we got our face, our top, our bottom. We got our two angled faces on both ends. I think we got them all.
Hold up the inside of here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Keith reminded me that there's also surface textures on this face here as well. So let's address that. So what I'm going to do is copy my joker out there. Back it off that side. And then I'm going to rotate it around so that it's turned the right way. And I'm going to go ahead and fake me an extension line in to set it on. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that up to there. And I think that's got it pretty well. And you might get away with just one of those, but
Yeah, let's say, wouldn't that?
it's the same face.
It has a radius, it's like all the same.
Yeah, I think you could probably, I wouldn't fuss if there was just one there. So now we got to put our note in. So just use the general text. I'm just going to kind of bring this up and I can see some of it together. Just going to kind of try to do that. I'm going to try to get where I can see just this text maybe. So I kind of want to, yeah, I want to put it exactly like that. And because there's no text symbol, I'll have to use my, I got to get out of that to split my screen. Which one? Really didn't show up there. All right, so let's try to get in there again. Close this out of the way. So I'm just going to put in some text right here, and that's what I'm wanting to do. So I'm just going to put in an empty space there where those symbols are at. So surfaces mark there. So I'm going to put in like an extra 3 spaces, 2B, 1, 2, 3. And I may have to come back and change those spaces a little bit, make it suitable. So we got to put that in there. And then we will move our symbol from the one I started with. It's just kind of floating around in space. We don't want to leave it floating around in space. We'll move it into right in there. There's probably some tricks you can do to place it real precisely, but I'm just going to do that. And now I'm going to copy it straight over to the end here. And I'm going to add some more single line pieces of text. So I'm going to use single line instead of multi-line. And one of them is going to be 63. The other one's going to be 2. I'm going to hit the enter. Oops. And now I got to figure out what size they're supposed to be. They came in at 3.175, which is 1/8 of an inch. I can figure out what is 0.09 times 25.4. I want them to be 2286. So, 229 is fine. So I'm just going to go blow that back up. I'm going to pick these 2 pieces of text, look at the properties, and I'm going to change their text height to 2.29. And then I'm going to reposition them a little bit to where they belong on the symbol. So I'm having to kind of really work hard to get this stuff about right. And kind of right in there is kind of what I'm just kind of make it pretty close to that. You should be all set. If you're real particular and you think it needs to be scooted a little bit, don't be afraid to scoot it a little bit. But I'll be really thrilled to see that right there. Hope I captured that on the Zoom. I don't know. 2.29. I probably wouldn't see the difference between 229 and 224, but that's what it calculates out to be with the 0.09 inches. So just remember how the darned ellipse have to project up, cause all that grief. The underside. Big thing is you get one, then the others are just like it. So work on one and then copy it around. Try to be looking for those shortcuts to get you out of those jams. Well, we use the template, right? So if I go into my layouts, did you use the template file when you started? You got the layouts across the bottom.
Oh, you mean the A size?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just go into your whichever size sheet you want. So here I can kind of see my notes kind of got into the title block, so that's not a good place to leave them. So when you select all your notes, make sure you get all your weird symbols out there, stuff too. Don't move just part of it. Get it all. So this one fits pretty good on 1-to-1 on C size sheet. It'll be super crowded on a B size sheet for sure.
Materials.
The material needs to be listed on there too. I think it's what, gray iron?
Yes.
Yeah, material is gray iron. So don't forget that. It's not malt, it's MATL.
I'm just like,
I don't know if it's you, but I've seen some malts. So I just thought I'd shout about that.
it may be.
Yeah.
Seriously, I have a lot of trouble with
Well,
that.
I understand. But that's how you remember it, I guess, malt. That's what you said. I'm like, that's where that's coming from. I've seen it a couple of times. Like I said, I don't know whose, but I've seen it. All right, so let's just, I'll turn you loose, but let's talk a little bit about some of these other problems we got up against. I kind of piece work through them, and this one's kind of, you know, we'll work on that some more next week. I'm kind of working through this one myself. There may be some missing stuff on there hurting us. Want to make sure we can get through it all. This guy right here, a little bit tricky. This block piece is centered across, that way, but it's not centered. Let me take that, but yeah, the center of it passes through these corners with this center line here, right? But this way, it's actually got a dimension right here of 0.25 that offsets it from the corner, so you go quarter inch this way, 1 inch this way to find this back edge right here. And then, you're 2 1/4 this way forward. So you kind of got to dance around with those numbers a little bit to get it positioned in there right. The auxiliary views, you'll get one coming off this face going this way. Again, I don't need anything with that face, so we're trying to locate and position this hole with that view. This other one, we really are detailing that weird shape there. We don't need the base, anything but this weird shape that you see on this from the backside. So it'll just be flat edges over there. So everybody kind of got that. And again, we got more surface texture symbols all in these grooves down the bottom, top. So, don't overlook those surface texture symbols. We got our material, we got our notes here. We can add in there same way we did. This is inch. So, use those same numbers or scale it back down, or, you could go the reverse of the way we did. If you don't want to draw another one, certainly can do that. If you can wrap your mind around it. And then the other one, that one we're going to I think there's one more, right? Yeah, we're getting a good dose of auxiliary views. So D. Yeah. So we'll make an auxiliary view off this base here. That'll give us the detail of the dovetail and these location of these holes. These are threaded holes. We haven't really got to that yet, but what I'd like for you to do for those threaded holes is just make a 5 diameter with a 6 diameter hidden line around it. And then in the side view, you'll see the 6 coming down, however deep that 20 is. And the 5 will go a little bit further. And because the hole doesn't go through, it's called a blind hole. And that means there's what? A drill point on the end of it. And the drill point's got a 118-degree point. So that's some new stuff for us too. And we might touch back base on this again next week too, because I know not everybody's there. And my goal here is not to run off and leave everybody. I mean, we can't dilly-dally too long. We got to get things going. But I don't want to run off and leave everybody because we missed a day of class. So I'm going to be liberal on the due dates, and we'll just kind of work this stuff in as we're going along. I'm sure we got some new stuff for Monday too. We can look, see what that is. Any questions about that stuff, those auxiliary views? Yeah, so next week we're actually talking about geometric dimensioning and tolerance. That's another real fan favorite. But we'll get through it. Any questions that we want to work through, try to figure out before I turn you loose to get back to it? All right, well, I'm going to shut my demo down. Stop recording. I hope I recorded the right screen.